All right. Hello, hello. I'm excited for today's episode. We are going to be talking about exactly how I turned around my flopped launch. Now, just to sort of set the scene a little bit, I started selling the program, the Private Practice Academy bundle, at the end of 2021. So it's been around for over 4 years now. It's been my signature program, has helped over 900 therapists start their own private practice, scale to six figures, grow on Instagram, which is absolutely amazing. And I usually put it on sale a few times a year. Typically, I'll do what's called a launch in order to sell the program and really have a big increase in enrollments. And so, typically, when I do a launch, it involves a lot of planning and time on my part. So, I will host a free training that I do live. We usually get several hundred people to sign up and to show up, which is amazing. And I will promote that free training on Instagram, my email list for 2, 3 weeks to try and get as many people to register as possible. Then I will do a sale for about 10 days. And this is really full on in terms of marketing, daily content, a ton of stories daily, a ton of DMs, emails. You know, a lot goes into really having a lot of hype around a 10-day period to sell the program. And typically in those launches, I'll get between like 30 and 50 people, which is amazing. I usually put the program on sale for $9.97 during a launch. And it's amazing. It's really cool to have, 30 or 50 people join in like a week and a half period. But about 2 years ago, I decided to test something called a flash sale. And with these flash sales, what I've done basically is instead of doing a full launch with a webinar and all of this hype beforehand and 10 days of selling, I just put the program on sale for 3 days. And I kind of think of that as like a shorter push, right? It's like I'm running a shorter race instead of a marathon. And they've been very nice to get, a bigger increase in people joining the program than we would in a typical month without a sale, but not requiring so much effort from me and from my team. And so I started doing flash sales in January 2024. And my first flash sale, I had 11 people join, which was really cool. It's the first time I had done it. Then the next one after that, I had 19 people join in June 2024, which was really cool because we were almost up to the amount of people that I get in a typical launch. But again, I had only needed to do a 3-day flash sale, which is amazing. And then in June 2025, I had my best flash sale ever, and we had 41 people join. And this was right before I went out on maternity leave. I had my first baby at the end of September. And so it was really cool to like basically get the result of a full launch with only 3 days worth of like live selling effort and not having to like do a whole training in my third trimester. It just felt so, so, so good. And so that's just sort of like setting the stage of where things have been historically for the flash sale. And that June flash sale in 2025 really took me for a loop. My goal for that flash sale was only 20 people. I was like, we got 19 in the last one. Like, maybe we'll go up to 20 this time. That would be cool. And we more than doubled the goal. And so, coming back from maternity leave, I decided I wanted to do a flash sale instead of a launch. I just thought like I wasn't sure when I was planning my launch calendar before I even had my baby. And so I wasn't sure like what was postpartum going to look like for me, what was my baby going to look like, how was I going to feel about going back to work, what exactly would like my childcare hours look like. And so I thought, I'm going to ease into things with a 3-day flash sale. It'll be good. I'll get, a bump in revenue. I'll get some confidence and feel like I'm back, but I won't have to, put in all this effort, teach a live training, promote it, commit to selling every day for 10 days. And so I decided I was going to do a flash sale. Now, here's where things got very ambitious on my part. I set a goal of having 50 people enroll, right? So I wanted to be on like the upper end of results for what I get with a 10-day launch, but I wanted to do this in 3 days of selling. And I wanted to even beat the last June 2025 goal by another 9 people. And, in my mind, I knew that this goal was a little stretchy, but I really wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And I also wanted to sort of like test the waters and see, am I able to maybe not launch anymore, right? Or just launch once or twice a year? can I replace a few more of my launches with these easier, lower lift flash sales and still get the same results in my business? And so in order to do that, I was like, I'm going to go all out with this, right? Like, yes, I'm only going to do it for 3 days, but I'm really going to give it my all. And so I made a bonus of a 20-minute live one-on-one Instagram audit with me, which I rarely do these. In the 5 years I've been selling this program, I think I've had that as a bonus 3 times. So very rare. But I was like, I'm going to give a live one-on-one audit to the first 35 people to join. And I hope that that really sets the tone. I hope that that gets us to 50, but at minimum, I want 35 people. Like, I want to sell out these audits. And that didn't happen. So the first 3 days of the flash sale, which is what I had planned for the flash sale, we got 21 people who joined. And this was less than half of the goal of 50 people that I had set. And so I was feeling really bummed about it. And I decided I was going to extend the flash sale. So originally the flash sale went Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By about Thursday afternoon, I knew we were definitely not going to be anywhere close to hitting that goal. And so I already started to work behind the scenes of what would happen if I reopened the doors the next week. So Monday of that week was President's Day. And so I didn't want to open them then. And so I decided I was going to open the doors again for 24 hours on Tuesday, February 17th. And I'm going to go into all the details of what that looked like in this episode. But as a spoiler alert, we had 13 people join during that 24-hour extension. So more than half of the people who joined in the original 3-day flash sale, we had joined when I opened the doors again for another 24 hours, which brought our total to 34 people. So I still didn't sell out my audits. I was one person short. I definitely did not hit the goal of 50, but we got 68% of the way there and, made an extra $13,000, got another 13 therapists that I get to help and, guide them with growing their private practice, starting their private practice, growing on Instagram, all the things. And so I'm really excited for that. And I'm really proud of how I showed up for this flash sale and the extension as well. So we're going to go into that today. But, I think a lot of people would have given up at this point, right? A lot of people would have said, my launch flopped. Like, there's nothing I can do here. Especially as somebody who's teaching other people how to market themselves, it felt scary for me to admit on the internet that my launch flopped, right? Because I'm like, don't people need to trust that I know what I'm doing with marketing? And so that felt like a little stretchy for me and a little vulnerable. It was hard to admit, like, okay, I took a 3.5 month maternity leave and now I'm coming back and maybe things are not as like stellar in my business as I hoped they would be. And so it definitely brought up a lot of feelings. But for me, I'm really proud that I didn't let that mean that I did anything wrong or that my business was screwed or that there was like no way to fix this. I got really strategic. I looked at the data and that helped me to really neutralize things and make a clear plan for what is next. So a lot of this episode is going to be like nitty gritty numbers and stuff. And that might make your eyes glaze over as a therapist. But I really want to encourage you to listen because this is how you need to start thinking as a business owner if you want to have a really successful, really scalable business. Right? Like, you might be able to make it to your first 6 figures without worrying too much about the numbers as a therapist. But you're definitely not going to make it to $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year, unless you are paying attention to stuff and really thinking in this way. So I hope that you will bear with me as I share some of these numbers because they're really what guided my decision, right? These numbers are what helped me to understand the story of what went wrong, which helped me to make a plan in place of how to fix it. And I'm incredibly happy with the results. And that made the total discount for the program 53% off. Now, I also added, as I said, a one-on-one 20-minute Instagram audit with me for the first 35 people who joined. So there was a lot of bonuses, a lot of incentives, and I think that this is really important, right? Because at its core, the Private Practice Academy bundle is a self-paced course, but the bonuses really make it a dynamic program and experience with a ton of feedback and support. Right? So in the Reels membership, people get weekly content ideas from me. That helps to hold them accountable. It helps them to build momentum. It helps them to implement what they're learning. They get the live Instagram audit with me, right? A great way to kick off the program together. We get on a call. I give them clarity on their niche. I give them clarity on the bio, their messaging, to really help them, feel that momentum and get the results right away. They get 3 months of live group coaching with me. So we meet twice per month for live calls. There's daily messaging access where they can ask questions, and I give super detailed personal responses. And so all of this together helps to really elevate a self-paced course and make it into a program that is going to get therapists the results that they're looking for. And so I think that that is really key, of just like knowing that my offer was good was really, really helpful during this process. Now, for the initial flash sale, I had 9 emails that went out in 3 days. Some emails went out to everybody on my email list. Others we targeted of just like, if you're in the Reels membership, but you're not in PPA, you're getting this extra email. So 9 emails total. We did 4 Instagram posts in feed, which is a combination of Reels and carousels. And then I was showing up on stories every day. And as I said, we got 21 people to join. And the biggest thing that really stood out to me was our sales page was not converting as it typically does. So we had 903 sales page views during the 3-day flash sale and 21 orders. So the sales page converted at 2.3%. Now, typically, my sales page converts between 3 and 5% during a launch. So I knew that this was not just on the lower end of like that range, but it was actually below what is considered typical. And so that was like a red flag for me throughout the launch. I was like, what is happening? Why is this sales page not working? And I was so grateful. I actually got a DM from Nicole, who is a Private Practice Academy alumni, who sent me some screenshots and screen recordings and was like, hey, I'm already in the program, but I want to let you know because this program has helped me so much and I want to be able to help other people. But your sales page will not load for me. It is taking forever. And it was working fine for me and for my team. We were able to like check it on mobile. But if it's not working for her, like that's a huge problem. And it was probably not working for others too. And so that was one of the key things that I really wanted to fix when I decided to extend. Because if the sales page is not loading, people are not going to be able to buy, right? That's like a really, really, really big deal. The other issue that I could see from the jump was my traffic was way down in stories, like 200, 300, 400 views, when typically outside of a launch, I'll get like 2 to 3,000 views. And during a launch or during a flash sale, I'll get maybe 1 to 2,000 views, right? So it's normal for me for my views to go down when I'm selling a lot. I think that that's pretty common in general, but to be under 1,000, to be under 500 was like a really big deal because that meant way less people were seeing me actively sell this program, right? Way less people were being told to click the sales page. Way less people were being able to see the client results I was sharing, all of it. And so those were the 2 things that I was like, I know from the jump, I'm going to have to fix this. Like my story views and the sales page conversion numbers, like these results make sense, right? It was clear to me that it wasn't like I had done something horribly wrong or people didn't like me anymore or courses were dead or something like that. It was very clear to me like the sales page wasn't working and not enough people were going to the sales page because of my story views. So here's what I did about it. The first thing I did was decide I was going to reopen the doors, right? So I like sat with it a little bit. I reached out to my business coach and I was like, hey, this launch is not going as planned. We are like way below the goal. And she was like, do you want to consider doing another 24-hour extension? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I feel like there's stuff here that I could definitely fix. And I think that it would go differently when I do a 24-hour extension. So let's do that. And we started to talk through different messaging angles. And, one of the big things that came up for her was like, maybe with everything going on politically, it's just not the right time for us to be doing a short 3-day flash sale, right? Like people's nervous systems are flooded. There's a lot going on right now in the news. Maybe people are not ready to make that decision, so quickly. And I definitely think that that contributed to it. But to me, I also felt like I had more accountability to take than that, I guess. Like I knew that I had sort of like checked out of my Business of Therapy Instagram page leading up to this launch, right? So I knew that, when I was on maternity leave, my team was posting a lot of stories and client wins for me to keep things maintained. But we were not like I was not showing up in stories. I was not chatting on stories. I was not sharing personal life updates on Business of Therapy. I was doing a lot of that on my Sit with Kelly Instagram page, and there's a lot of people who follow me on both. But like my Business of Therapy stories had gotten quite boring, if I'm being honest. I had not put like a lot of time or effort into them. And so even if people felt like they knew me and they liked me for my Sit with Kelly stories, they probably weren't that interested in watching my Business of Therapy ones because they were boring, right? I was mostly just showing up there to sell, and was really losing that connection piece. The other thing is like, I had planned a lot of content before I went out on maternity leave, and I planned a lot of it at once. And so I don't think that content was super strong or super personal. Um, and I felt like I could do better and like show up better in terms of content on the Business of Therapy page as well. And I just felt like if I can show up and let people see me, if I can lead with transparency, I can turn this launch around, because that has been the number one value for me in my business. It is the number one piece of feedback I get from people about like why they decided to enroll in my program specifically, why they chose to hire me as their coach, why they chose to enroll in my course. Is because of the way I lead with transparency and how that feels, so open and honest and raw to people. And so that was the angle I decided to take. And it was super scary. I talked to Tom and was like, hey, I'm thinking about reopening the doors to this flash sale and like sending out an email and just being like, I flopped, like, let's try this again. He was like, are you sure? Like, this program is supposed to teach people how to market themselves. Like, are they gonna like that? Like, I feel like that doesn't like put you in a very good light. And I was just like, you know what? This isn't your area of expertise. Thank you, but no thank you. This is what I'm gonna do. And so I wrote a long email, sort of diving into a lot of the points I'm explaining here in this episode, but about what went wrong in my launch and what I was fixing, to change things. And it was so well received. I got dozens and dozens of replies of people like thanking me for my honesty. I decided to share screenshots of that email to social media, which also performed really well. And so it was really cool to see like there wasn't like an angle I needed to take. There wasn't something I needed to do entirely differently. Like I just needed to show up more as myself and let people see me. And when I was able to do that and give it another shot, I was really able to get the result I was looking for. So that is the first thing I did about it, was decide, what angle am I going to take here? Can I be honest? And I decided yes, and it was so, so good. I think it really reinforced the humanness. And so I reopened the doors. I acknowledged that the world was really heavy and maybe it wasn't the right time to do a 3-day flash sale. So I wanted to give people who were on the fence more time, right? And so doors had closed on Thursday, and then we reopened doors on Tuesday. So in my mind, I was really trying to speak to people who had been thinking about joining the previous week, but ultimately ended up deciding like, not right now, or I'm not sure. And then maybe we're really thinking about it on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, on Monday, thinking like, dang, I wish I had done that. What would have happened if I had, right? And so I really wanted to speak to those people and give them another chance to join. So I worked with my team to fix the sales page. So we went through and made it so much shorter and really distilled it to just the information that we needed to know. And then my team went ahead and like, actually did that on the tech side, which was really nice. I definitely I paused and like reset my story strategy. So on Friday, I decided to do like a give back to my community, right? I did a Q&A, ask me anything, and I did not sell in a single one of those responses. And my goal was really just to help people, right? I'm going to serve up, my goal was really just to help people. I'm going to show up, I'm going to serve, I'm going to answer questions, I'm going to give free advice, I'm going to give free coaching. And I think that that helped me to really nurture people to step back into my authority, to get people interested in asking me questions. And that was really nice. And then over the weekend, I shared some personal stories just to make things like for fun. So I shared some, videos of Josie at the dog park, of Aiden with some like Valentine's Day balloons, and those did so well. My story views went up to like 8,000 people over the weekend, which was huge to be at like 200 people in the flash sale, back up to 8,000. So that was really cool. And I let my stories reset on Monday, meaning that I did not post a single story on Monday before I reopened the doors Tuesday. And that can be just like a little hack. It's not like a good long term strategy, but if you want to get your sales, if you want to get your story views up for like one day in particular, letting your stories entirely reset and starting fresh can usually boost that in the algorithm for you. So if you ever have something big coming up that you want to make sure gets a lot of views, but your stories reset first, that can be really helpful. And so the other thing I wanted to do in addition to, speaking about what was going on, fixing the sales page, getting my story views back up was I really wanted to talk more to people, right? Like I feel like there's so many I feel like there's such a huge trust recession in the online space right now, right? There's a lot of people who are like scammy. There's a lot of programs that don't actually deliver results. There's a lot of people who are writing everything with ChatGPT. You can't tell who's actually an expert and good at what they're doing. There's a lot of people in like the MLM space or the like master resale rights who are just like lying about income as well. And so for me, I know like one of my biggest strengths again is like transparency, but it's also like that willingness to be a human and to have conversations with people, right? Like I may have 50,000 followers on my Instagram page, but I am not above answering my DMs. I answer my DMs every single day. I try and answer literally every single person who DMs me. If I miss you, I'm sorry, please bump it. But like I actually do DMs on my computer through ManyChat so I can specifically clear them out because I don't want them to get lost, right? Like I truly think that it is so important for me to be talking to the people who follow me. I enjoy doing it. And it's really important to me. So what I really wanted to do during this one day extension of the flash sale was get more people into my DMs, right? I wanted to give people the opportunity to ask questions, to share about where they're at, to tell me their goals, to tell me what's holding them back. So that way I could speak with them and genuinely tell them if it was the right fit for them, what I would recommend they do first, how this program can help them, how it will be different than other negative experiences they had. And so that was really my focus going into the extension was like, how can I create more opportunities for people to talk to me? And so that is what I did. I asked a lot of people to DM me in my stories. That was like always a call to action. And then I actually ended up sharing like a bunch of screenshots of different questions that people had DM me. And then I talked through that verbally on my stories as well, in addition to sending them a private message. And I think that that was really helpful because one, it like modeled for other people who had not yet asked a question that you really can ask a question, and lots of people are doing this, and I'm happy to help and talk through it with you. And so I think that it just led to me getting even more DMs. And then also other people really and had similar questions, right? And so people hearing that answer was really helpful in moving that decision making process forward. And so I spent a lot of time on Tuesday in my DMs with folks. I was voice noting back and forth. There was a few people who emailed me questions where I even sent them like a video response, kind of talking through it, and really just viewed my role on Tuesday as showing up, serving, giving people the opportunity to ask questions and helping people to see whether or not this was the right program. And I'm really happy with how it ended up. So overall, I wrote 4 emails and I did all the copy myself for this on Friday, which I was really proud of. I wrote 4 emails. I did a carousel post and a reel. And we got a lot more sales page views. So from emails, we had 198 sales page views. And from stories, we got another 91 sales page views. And then we had some people going from link in bio, my website, all of that. So we had total 400 sales page views for that extra one day. And the sales page converted at 3.3%. And we got 13 new people to enroll, right? So the sales page conversion was still, I would say, on like the lower side, but it was in that 3 to 5% range, which I think definitely helped from fixing like the tech issues. And it was really, really cool to see 13 more people join in like 24 hours. Was amazing. It was a 62% increase from the initial results of the flash sale. So net net over the total of 4 days, we had 34 people join, which brought in $35,450 of revenue. Amazing. From flopped launch to $35,000 in 4 days. And to wrap up, I want to share some lessons learned from this that I hope that you can apply in your business, whether this is a goal of yours to launch online programs, to launch digital products, or if your goal is to fill your one-on-one therapy caseload. A lot of this still really applies, right? It is not always the launch itself, but what you do before the launch, right? Or if you are trying to fill your caseload, it is not necessarily the stories you are posting today saying, book an intro call with me, that are the problem. It's what you were doing before that, right? The 90 days leading up to something really matters. People take time to come to a purchasing decision, to decide to enroll in a course, to decide to hire a therapist, to decide they're ready to get therapy. And so, how you show up in that decision making process is going to move people along those stages of change, right? It's going to help them become ready to work with you. You know, for this flash sale, people who enrolled in the program were on my email list for an average of 112 days first, right? So that's almost 4 months of them showing up on my email list, them seeing my content, them getting my emails every Tuesday, them hearing from me before they decide, okay, you know what, I'm ready to enroll. I trust Kelly. I trust this program will help me. I'm going to move forward. And so, you know, I was on maternity leave for the 4 months prior to this launch. And so I was not showing up with my all. And I think that that is really helpful for me just moving forward. Like, I know what I can do differently. I'm very happy with the results. I'm obviously very happy I took my maternity leave, and like, I would not change that for the world. But I know, okay, if I want to continue to grow my business, to continue to get better and better and better results, I need to prioritize this on a day to day basis, right? So I've always kind of viewed my Sit with Kelly stories as just for funsies, and I'm like sharing there and yapping there. But I need to bring that energy to business and therapy too. You know, this is where I earn the majority of the revenue for my business is from brand partnerships on this page. It's from courses, it's from my membership. You know, most of my revenue comes from the business and therapy side of things now versus Sit with Kelly, especially since I'm not seeing therapy clients still after my return from mat leave. And so, you know, I need to nurture people. I need to show up. I need to yap. I need to be a human over here. And so that is definitely what I'm going to do more of. You know, I'm also going to nurture people in my feed, right? So if you look back historically, most of my posts have some direct sales call to action. I'm either telling people to enroll in a free training, to you know, join PPA, to join the Rails membership. But I want to have a goal of once or twice a week, have a post that is just for fun. Have a post that is not telling people to take a next step, but is really just there to nurture them, to have them feel seen, to have them say, oh my gosh, goals. Like that, I think is really important. Another way that I really want to focus on nurturing people is getting more podcast listeners. You guys are my people. I absolutely love doing this podcast every week. And I think it is such a good nurture tool for folks to be able to tune in, to listen to me talk for 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes, right? I think that that is such a trust builder. And I think it's also a really good trust builder because people get results from implementing what they learn in the podcast before they even pay me anything, right? And so that builds a lot of trust of like, if she's giving this to me for free, if I'm getting these results just from listening to the podcast, what would happen if I actually enrolled in the course? If I did the whole program, if I got Kelly's personalized feedback, right? And so I want to put in an effort into growing the podcast listeners. So if you listen to this podcast, actually, I would love if you shared it in your stories. If you want to send it to a therapist friend, like any little bit helps. But I really want more podcast listeners in 2026 is a big goal of mine. And the last thing I hope you take away from this is to know your data, right? That can really help neutralize what is going on. So take the time to understand your numbers. If you don't understand what numbers you're trying to aim at, you know, you can always join if you don't know what numbers you're trying to aim at, you can always join PPA, ask in our VIP community. I'm happy to give you some guidance and some benchmarks there. But at the very least, you can compare your data to your own previous data, right? Like, how many website views do you get on your contact page? How many intro calls did you get that month? Right? Like, just start tracking that every month and seeing what are the patterns. What percent of people who visit your web page actually go ahead and schedule an intro call? What percent of those people who schedule an intro call actually convert into a therapy client? Right? Like, there's different numbers that you can look at to decide where in this process do I want to shift things? Do I need to get more people to my website from Instagram? Do I need to make it easier for them to schedule an intro call? Do I need to work on my sales skills and actually get more people who are on the intro call to say, yes, I will book a session with you? But when we are able to understand our numbers and where things are going wrong, it makes it a lot easier to fix it. And that is really what is going to skyrocket your business. I am so proud of myself for taking the time to look at these numbers here and to take the time to actually show up and to say, I can do better. I don't need to kill myself doing this, of course, but I can show up more. I can give more of myself to this, and I can get a better result if I put in more effort. And I think so many people are afraid to be seen trying, especially because, when I decided to open the doors, when I decided to say, this flopped, I didn't know that it was going to go really well for the extension, right? There was a chance that I was going to open the doors and say, I'm extending, and nobody was going to buy, and that would have felt embarrassing, right? But I gave it my all, and I'm honestly so grateful that's not how it turned out. But yeah, that is all for today, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed this behind the scenes podcast episode. I feel like this is something not enough people talk about openly in business, but flopping is part of the journey for everybody, and it is how you move through it that matters. All right, I will see you next week.